Welcome into the Eagle Communications Sports Update right here on HutchPost.com. As always with Glen Grunwald, I am Daren Dunn. Today we'll talk a little bit about the Royals. We'll also talk about the NBA Finals. We'll have a couple of guests today as we talk to John Ontjes and Steve Eck of HCC men's and women's basketball respectively. But first we start with the Hutchinson Monarchs. Of course, we had Mark Blackham on not that long ago. Kind of a shaky start they've had there, Glen, to their season.
Yeah, they started 0-4. They're now 2-5. They split a doubleheader with Salina on Saturday, which was a good win. They're at home on Tuesday night, and then they're on the road at Newton. Return home on Thursday night, and a weekend against the Kansas Cannons coming up this week on Saturday. So your chance to get out there and again catch some more ball games. They're settling down a little bit. It's just a matter of, I think, they're just getting into their niche. They just had their team meetings and kind of getting into it and get their bullpen working a little bit. But they're 2-5 going into tonight's contest in the Walter Johnson League. So we'll see what happens this weekend, and we'll talk more about them next week.
In their doubleheader on Sunday, they take down Salina at first, a good win, 9-4, but then somehow fall to Salina 5-4 that second game around. The interesting thing to see this week will be, can they get a win at home? They have yet to do so.
Yeah, and the big thing would be the bullpen in both of those losses that they had earlier that week. And again, like you said, the second half of the doubleheader against Salina, the bullpen kind of gave up some runs. So, but their bats broke out on their first win, 14-7. They got a nice win earlier on that Saturday. So we'll see what happens. Again, 2-5 going into this week. Got 2 out of 3 games are at home this next week, and again, we'll keep you abreast on what's happening next week.
They will be at Hobart Detter Field, as Glen mentioned, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So about 3 chances there to see them at home there in Cary Park. Hey, when we come back, head men's basketball coach at HCC, Steve Eck, is in the house. Keep it right here on HutchPost.com for the Eagle Communications Sports Update. Communications Sports Update right here on HutchPost.com, where you can get your latest news, weather, and sports. Joining me now is head men's basketball coach at Hutchinson Community College, Steve Eck. Steve, thanks for joining us. Let's jump right into it. Can you replace Kadeem Allen coming into this next season, or is that one of those where you throw some guys in and hope they fill his shoes halfway?
It's going to be very, very hard to replace Kadeem Allen. You know, Kadeem was a first time Hutch had a first-team All-American 2 years in a row. Also the first time they had a National Player of the Year. So in all these years of Hutchinson tradition, it finally happened in 2014. So it's going to be hard to fill Kadeem's spot. But we have some players that can, come in and do, make up here. We're not going to, there's not going to be anyone to go out there and score 25 points a game or 26 points a game. But we have some guys that can, hopefully fill the spots enough to where we're, a little more. Well, I shouldn't say a little more team-orientated, because last year we had 5 guys in double figures, so that still shows that we scored a lot of points last year. Now, will we score as many points this year? I don't know, because Kadeem was a big part of that.
When you get a special guy like Kadeem, do you find yourself coaching him more so than you're letting him go out and play street ball, or do you let him kind of take the reins a little bit?
Well, we got the street ball out of him, and he had a good high school coach, but we got the street ball out of him probably the first 3 or 4 games of the year as a freshman. And so what I found out as a freshman, when he was playing as a freshman, I was coaching him. After about the 6th, 7th game, I learned that the less I say to him, the better off he is on the court. During practice, obviously we coach him during practice, but once the game starts, let him feel the game, and he had a good feel for the game. Let him play, and try to keep my comments to a minimum, because he knows when he made a mistake, he doesn't need to hear that from me, because he's a smart enough player that he knows I made a mistake, I need to correct it, and it's amazing how he can go down there and make up for it.
One of the top runners you have looking to fill that point guard position for Kadeem is a guy by the name of Jalen Robertson, 5'9". Is there going to be any issues there with the height differential?
Possibly, as far as against maybe zones, as far as swinging the ball, but Jalen can handle the ball so well. Jalen can penetrate and kick, and he's also a good shooter, so they're going to have to honor his shot. And if they don't respect his shot outside, he'll hit it. And if they do respect his shot, you can possibly go around him. So he's very quick, good ball handler. I have yet to see him play very much, because he came in for at the semester at the Christmas January and played for 1 hour and went up to dunk it on Kadeem, and Kadeem blocked him and came down and he broke his wrist. So he's just now, right now, we have summer school right now, and he's doing ball handling skills and that kind of stuff, and he's really good at that. But I've watched enough video on him to know that he's a good point guard.
Lots of things to look forward to coming up next season for HCC. Look for Jalen Robertson to be competing there at 5'9" for that point guard position.
I'd say he's 5'10".
5'10".
We're 5'10".
We'll give him a generous 5'10". Thanks, Coach Eck, for being on the show. When we come back, Glen is with John Ontjes here on HutchPost.com's Eagle Communications Sports Update.
Have a good summer.
Well, welcome back to the Eagle Communications Sports Update, brought to you weekly here on HutchPost.com. Joining me now is head basketball coach on the ladies' side, the women's head basketball coach at HCC, John Ontjes. And John, a situation where last year you were able to take them to 35-0 and lost that last game against Trinity Valley, a very deserving Trinity Valley team in the national championship. Your lone loss in 2 great years back-to-back, actually 3 when you really want to look at it. And but you do have some holes you have to fill.
Yeah, we do. We lose a lot of great players, and you know they're moving on to good 4-year schools, and you know, but that's how junior college is. You know, you have kids for 2 years, and then you've got to replace usually some pretty important pieces every year.
You're not one that has a lot transfer in. You usually start them off as freshmen. You actually have one transferring out this year as a freshman, is Chelsea Dunn going to Missouri Western, which is a great opportunity for her. But you have a few transfer ins, but not a whole lot. You kind of homegrown them a little bit.
Yeah, we like to have them for 2 years. Christasia Walter was one of the few transfers that we had, and she was an important piece. But we'll try to look for a couple transfer kids this year. You know, the important position that we have to fill is our point guard position with losing Javante Hill, and then of course Chelsea moving on to Missouri Western. So we're going to need to be able to pick up a couple point guards here in recruiting class.
Coach also lost his leading scorer, in Jamie Patrick, who's going to go out west at Colorado State. Third-team All-American on the NJCAA All-American, as well as honorable mention Kalani Purcell will return. So, Jamie, that's some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Jamie had a tremendous career for us, becoming our all-time leading scorer. And we'll truly miss her, but we have a good piece with Kalani Purcell returning. So we feel like Sydney Benoit will give us some good minutes this year. I think, of course, we returned Shakira Harding, who started most of the year at the 2. So we've got some sophomores that will come in and give us some good minutes also.
Another, the big girl, Kiara Jones, signing with Rockhurst, so there's some size in there that you're going to have to replace as well. So the 4 that moved on, good programs that they're going to. Javante Hill out to Oregon State. Again, like I said, Jamie Patrick to Colorado State. Rockhurst is going to get Kiara Jones, and then Missouri Western with Chelsea Dewey transferring on there. Some good ones moving on, some good ones coming in.
Yeah, and the other one that you left out was Bree Starks, and I believe she's going to sign this week with a school in Illinois, and I'm not sure the school, but you know, Bree will be missed. She was very good in the region and did a great job in the national tournament. So all those sophomores were tremendous pieces for us.
John, we look forward to seeing you again as basketball season gets close. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Glenn.
We'll be more at Double D, and I'll stop back to wrap up a little bit more on this week's update from the Eagle Communications Sports Update. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back into the Eagle Communications Sports Update right here on HutchPost.com, where you can get your latest news, weather, and sports. Alongside Glen Grunwald, I am Daren Dunn. We turn now to the NBA Finals. The Miami Heat evening up that series against San Antonio at 1s. And really, I don't know, Glenn, going in, you really thought that the Heat were going to maybe blow this thing wide open, but it's really a neck and neck match here right now.
Well, it really is 1-1 going into tonight's ball game. You're exactly right. I picked it to go 4-1. I talked about it last week that I felt like Miami just had the upper hand. They just about are down. We're down 2-0 because of free throws that were missed in that key game over the weekend. But we'll see what happens if that gets going. So LeBron kind of got back into his old form. I guess he didn't like the 90-degree heat that they had in at San Antonio in the dome right there. But they got it back on track. We'll see what happens this week.
You know, it was funny when people were entering the game there in San Antonio for Game 2. There were actually 2 San Antonio fans with their Tim Duncan jerseys carrying a Miami Heat fan with his LeBron James jersey into the arena that evening, kind of mocking when he got carried off with his cramps toward the end of that game. But really think about that, 90 degrees down there on the court because the AC unit kicks off, and it's those crazy things where you have to adapt and overcome adversity. But I really think here for the Spurs and also for the Heat, you're kind of looking at a couple of different situations. You're looking at the Spurs, a team that is experienced, a team that has great depth, and you're looking at the Miami Heat, some guys who maybe like to play a little bit too individualistically from time and time again.
Other NBA news, by the way, John Calipari was offered an $80 million deal over 10 years by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Supposedly he turned it down. So also other news is the New York Knicks with Phil Jackson getting fined $25,000 for tampering with Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher would be a good fine for him. But the fact that Derek Fisher played on 4 of Phil's championship, knows him very well. He couldn't get Steve Kerr, who went with Golden State. Let's see if he can get Derek Fisher.
Yeah, Steve Kerr had an opportunity to kind of stay there in California where his kids are finishing up school, one in college, one in high school, so he's able to be closer to them. But he really thought for a moment he may have gone over there with Phil to New York, but not going to happen. We look now to the Kansas City Royals, how they've been doing, Glenn. I know the final game against the Yankees has been postponed, but after they lost to the Yankees there 2-4 in that first game, they reeled off 2 straight against the Yanks.
Yeah, they bounced back there. They did a good job against the St. Louis Cardinals as well over the weekend prior to that. So they're kind of on a little bit of a roll right now. We had to kind of praise them for the fact that we're kind of down on them when they dropped 4 or 5 in a row. Now they're winning a few. So if they keep winning 2 out of every 3, they'd be in great shape. So we'll see what happens. Derek Jeter, his last appearance at Kauffman Stadium was not because of the rain out last night. So we'll see what's going to happen.
It's interesting to see the Yankees in that second game before the postponement actually had 8 hits. The Royals only had 5, but somehow the Royals able to squeak it through. And Shields, how about Shields pitching well throughout the season, 7-3 already there. So sometimes it really depends on your keystone, on your pitcher, and who you're starting that night.
You got to have a stopper, and you also got to have a good bullpen. And right now, they're starting to come together. We'll see what happens.
Now, what I really want to talk about, and I know that it was probably overplayed just a little bit, but did you see when it happened, that ball boy grabbed the fair ball and tossed it right into the stands?
Yeah, in case fans missed that, the ball boy thought it was a foul ball and turned around and gave it to a fan, but actually it was a fair ball. Ended up not being a part of the play at all because it was just considered a ground rule double, and that's probably where he would have stopped. Did you notice on the next play, he had nothing to do with the baseball. He didn't even move out of his chair on the next foul ball that went down the line. So young kids, they use young kids there at Kauffman Stadium, at every stadium. That young man probably learned a very valuable lesson.
And perhaps the best part of it all was first base coach for the Royals, Rusty Kuntz, talking with the young man, telling him, that's not the first time that this has happened. It's probably not going to be the last. So, you get on with your life, you move on, you get in, you get out, you get even. That's what we're going to do. For Glen Grunwald, I am Daren Dunn. We'll catch you next time right here on HutchPost.com for the Eagle Communications Sports Update.